everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. After we rolled up a character last week in Role Player, this week we're going to head back to the World War II Atlantic Ocean. We're going to be here for a couple of weeks. First up, we're going to revisit Atlantic Chase from GMT Games. Earlier this year, this game ended up being game number 5 on my TAC Up Wargaming list, but we played a different scenario for that video. As I mentioned last week, we're going to spend the next 2 weeknight videos with the story of Battleship Bismarck. I'm somewhat experimenting with this game to figure out what day of the week it'll work best on. My first expectation is this will end up being Sunday content, but we'll find out from this video. Anyway, let's go through our scenario. So this week we are playing B, I believe is, okay, B is the breakout scenario, so B3, Operation Rhine. May 1941, Gross Admiral Erich Raeder is given the green light to follow up the success of Operation Berlin with new assets. His battle cruisers are in a sorry state, however, enduring air raids in French ports by the British. Most likely, he will have to rely exclusively on his newest battleship. The objective here is to strike British convoys mercilessly, but don't lose a battleship in battle, and return all ships to French ports. Alright, we've done setup here. The scenario ends when there are 3 or fewer rendezvous markers in play and the Germans have no task forces in play. Can also end as a result of the British action table. Rendezvous markers, these have no effect on play except when a German task force station is in hex with one of them. When you have the initiative and a German task force is in a hex with a marker, make a fueling check, roll a die and apply the result on the fueling table. I'm not going to show all the tables, but I will mention the special rules for convoys. A convoy can't be destroyed. It will disperse during the maneuver step of a battle round, but only if one or more of these conditions are true. It has suffered 3 hits. It's alone on the battle board with no other British ship there, or there's a damaged ship in its task force. Basically meaning the convoy is completely vulnerable to us. So, as you may have picked up in this scenario, we are actually playing as the Germans this time around. And the ship that we have command of, well, one of the ships that we have command of is Battleship Bismarck. So as many of you as any of the wargamers out there may know, sometime this week, I forget the exact date, I want to say it was the 14th, but don't quote me on that. The Bismarck was actually launched on Operation Rhine. So we're going to commemorate we're commemorating the start of the story with that scenario. Next week's game will commemorate the sinking of the Bismarck, but more on that later. With that, let's start working our way over to the board. We'll make our first stop at the task force displays. These are the task forces that we have to deal with. We have 2 that we have control of. So first up, we have obviously the signature ship here. If it wants to focus, we have, I'll bring it in a little closer. Come on. Oh, for crying out loud. This thing does not want to focus for me. We have the Bismarck. It's a battleship. 2 hits to damage. Speed is medium. 4 and 2, I believe, are gunnery, are the range. Short and point blank is the first number is 4. 2, I believe those are modifiers that we roll when we are in battle. Let me just double check that. It's been a while since I've played this game, so I'm a little bit rusty on it. Yes. Okay, so yeah, 4 if we're at short or point blank range, 2 if we're at long or extreme. And then the Prinz Eugen. One hit to damage, torpedo capable, which will be relevant during battle. 1 at point blank and short range, none at extreme or long. And it's fast, also torpedo capable, like I said. I think I mentioned that already. Then we do have 2 battle cruisers. We can bring those into play, but we'll suffer a victory point deduction if we do. So, those are the German ships that we have. Now let's look at the British forces. As you can see, we have a lot more British ships. We have 7 British task forces that we need to worry about to the Germans too. I won't go through each individual task force until they become relevant to the scenario. So, just so you can see the number of ships that we're up against here. Anyway, with that, let's go ahead and move over to our starting map. Before we take a look at the starting map, I did forget to mention that at the start of the scenario, we have Admiral Lütjens attached to the Bismarck. His special ability is we can spend him to seize the initiative if we need to. And then we've also got Gross Admiral Raider, who can let us do, who's based in Kiel, and we can use 2 all passes with him. So we'll put him down there. You can see our mess. You can see the mess that we've got here. So we've got the reinforcements are over here in Brest. The Bismarck and the Prinz Eugen are about to set sail from Kiel. Then we've got our other task force stations scattered around here. We've got 2 more. We've got a task force inbound from, I believe that task force is going to, they're going to Clyde, Liverpool. And this other one is heading down to Gibraltar. So those are the task forces that we're up against. You can see we've also got, since the Nazis took control of Norway in 1940, we now have a port up here that is for German intel. So with that, I think we're all set to get into this scenario, so let's go ahead and jump in with the Germans' first turn. Almost forgot I was grabbing the tally initiative track. Okay, we'll put the dice tower right there. First thing the Germans need to do is roll for the weather. Remember, it changes on a 6. Right now it starts good. Weather stays good for the time being. And then looking at the board, there's really not a whole lot to do right now, other than get the task force moving. So, I think we'll just go ahead and do a trajectory action. The question is, where do I want a trajectory? I don't want a trajectory anywhere near the... obviously I don't want a trajectory right in front of Britain. That sounds like an easy way to get the Bismarck sunk out from under me. So I'll pull that task force station out. We'll put our first trajectory segment down. I'll put this in my cup for that task force. Then I think we'll trajectory here. I want to stay as close to Norway as I can, for as long as I can, before I start to swing out. Do I want to go try to pick a fight with the... do I want to go try to pick a fight with that task force, the Manchester and the Arethusa, or do I want to head further north? Ultimately, I've got to head for the... I didn't point them out at the start of the scenario, but I do need to head for these rendezvous markers sooner rather than later. So I think what we're going to do is I'm actually going to trajectory... I'm actually going to go up all the way to the north. So we'll trajectory it like this. Then I am going to pick up an intel marker for advancing through that trajectory. So that task force gets an intel marker attached to it. We'll stay near the Arctic Circle. And then we'll trajectory to this first northmost refueling station. Then I think we'll pass, and I believe we established it's based on the slowest ship in the task force. Let me just double check that. Here we are, and task force is slowest ship is medium speed. Okay, so the Bismarck is the slowest ship. which means we time lapse and remove these 3 segments as the Bismarck moves out to sea. Then the British have the initiative. First we perform the check for the weather. Dice tower can go right there. Weather stays good. Oh, I don't know why I moved the dice tower out of shot, because I need to roll for a British action. So far, no convoys have completed, obviously, being the start of the scenario. I think I actually want that up here so I can make editing notes if I need to. You want that a little closer, though. Just doing a little bit of shuffling of stuff around off camera, in case you're wondering what that muttering is. Let's see, no convoys, a 6 is a C, that's a completion action. Select the British task force with a convoy. If more than one, select the shortest trajectory. No convoy in play. Okay, there is... Alright, selected task force attempts to complete in a port, but I think we can only try to complete with 6 segments max. Yes. So, if prevented from completing, the British pass instead. So the selected task force, so we've got 2 with convoys. It's the shortest one that... Select the shortest. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4. 10, 11. So the task force that's moving to Gibraltar is the one that's going to perform time lapse, and that's a slow, so they remove, I believe it's 2 segments? Yes. So we'll take these 2 segments off the board. First couple of turns probably aren't going to be that interesting. Anyway, the Germans now have the initiative. So let's see what they're doing. Probably what we're doing. Probably not much, but first we gotta check for the weather. Weather stays good. And yeah, I don't think there's really much for us to do right now. So I think we're just gonna pass again. We'll remove these 3 segments. So now now our next task force segment, when we time lapse, is going to hit the intel limit. Which means we will be able to get rid of the intel marker, but we might have a small problem there. The British now have the initiative, so they have to check for the weather. Weather stays good. Roll for an action. One is an airstrike. So in good weather, perform an airstrike targeting a German task force in range of a British airbase or task force with a CV. Select the target that will give the British the most favorable air support. So which I believe will be our task force. No, it won't be actually. Do we have anything that can strike the... I don't think so. There's no target. Treat it as an X instead. Okay. So we can't... We could have... It's tough to see, but we could have used this task for this airbase up in Iceland if it was 1942. The problem is this scenario takes place in 1941, so that actually won't fly here. All right, so there's no target for an airstrike, which means we'll use an X result, which will be attempting to intercept. So, using it as an X result. A 4 selects a task force nearest the German task force. This must have a CV class and no other in it. Except for the part where it doesn't... wait. It's like the task force nearest must have a CV in it, so that's a cruiser? CV is an aircraft carrier, actually. So the task force that we can select for that, I'll move the dice tower out of the way for a second. The task force we can select for that is actually this task force up here. So we're selecting the 2-line task force down here. Might be a little bit hard to see, but so X. All right. So it looks like they're going to bring to battle a German task force. Okay, I'm going to have to, let me do a little bit of reading here. So that task force is going to bring to battle a German task force. Will not enter a hex with a German-controlled port or airbase. Alright, coordination. If a convoy is in the target hex, it serves as a coordinating task force, but it's not. If no convoy... Okay, wait a minute. I'm confused. I'm going to turn the camera off so I can read this a little bit more clearly. I'll be right back. From the looks of it, they're actually going to... This task force is actually going to end up performing a trajectory action. It's the 2. The problem is it's not going to get up to the Germans this turn. So it's going to trajectory like so. We'll take the most direct route, which will be there. And then it looks like it will just time lapse. So what ships are in there? Oh boy, that's a big force. So it's a medium task force, which means it'll go 1, 2, 3. So that'll time lapse there. And then we'll get the initiative back as the Germans. Rolling for the weather. I did the roll-off shot, but you might be able to see there the weather is going to stay good. And then we're going to end up passing, but because we have an intel marker, we're going to have to invoke intel limit to remove these 2 segments, and then the intel goes away. That goes there. So it looks like we're going to give that task force the slip. But let's see what the British do now that they're taking the initiative back. Or now that they're getting the initiative back. Weather stays good. And let's see what they're doing for their action. A 3, they're going to do that. Actually, they're doing an X action this time. So, select the British. The scenario doesn't end because we haven't... If the Bismarck hasn't been sunk or completed, and 3 convoys haven't completed yet. So, remove all damaged British ships. If the scenario does not end, select the British task force. To make the selection, roll a die and refer to the X selection table. So we'll roll there. A 2 is an A with a star. Alright, so nearest task force with a battle cruiser, which is actually apparently this task force, the one with the Hood and the Prince of Wales. If the convoy is not already in the target hex, which it's not, you must also select a second task force to serve as a coordinating task force. All right, so the task force it's selecting is the nearest task force to the target hex. So it's trying to. So they're going to try to bring to battle the Germans. I'll get this out of the way. So this task force is trying to bring the Germans to battle, but they're all the way up there. So they're going to have to trajectory to get up to to get up there, which I think they should be able to do. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. That comes off. Let's see, bring to battle. Then an engage action after interruption. So the engage action, active task force. The task force has to be a station, it looks like. So, alright, so they'll time lapse to get up there, which will put an intel marker on the German task force once again. And then do we vie for the initiative? I think it looks like we vie for the initiative. So we'll bring that in shot. We'll see if the Germans, basically the way you vie for initiative is each side rolls 1d6, higher roll gets the initiative. If the Germans don't seize it, they'll get a +1 to the next modifier, next roll to try to seize the initiative. They do seize the initiative, so they get away with 1 there. Weather check. Weather changes to bad. So now that'll affect us on weather checks. I believe intel limit is still a thing, right? I think so. Okay, so... Wait, hold on. Did I do the interruption wrong there? Okay, we actually didn't have interruption because the active force didn't have an intel marker attached to it. So all the Germans can do here with intel limit is they'll end up removing these 2 task forces, which will get rid of the intel marker again, but this time the task force will actually turn into a station. So if they still have the initiative, they will actually be able to make a fueling check. Anyway, British turn again. Weather stays bad. We'll check for their action. A 2 is an A, which is an airstrike, but it's bad weather, so roll a die. If even, treat it as an X. If odd, treat it as a convoy result on the British action table. Right, that is even, so we treat it as a convoy result. Convoy's in play. Roll a die. If even, treat it as an X British action result. If odd, actually no. So the action is... hold on. The convoy's in play. So wait, we're going to end up looping this? That seems a little weird to me. Okay. Hopefully we're not just going to end up in a loop here, because with 2 convoys in play, we need to roll. If it's even, we're treating it as an X. If it's odd, we're treating it as a C to try to complete. All right, even sends us to the X action. So they'll try to intercept. Right, treat it as an X. So intercept. Alright, if the scenario doesn't end, select the British task force. Don't select one that has a convoy, and it will select the solid mark on that one. Make a die, or to make a selection, roll a die and and check the X table. A 3 Nearest task force with a battleship, which is actually the solid line task force. And with a star, must select a second task force to serve as coordinating. So we'll roll on the table. So who's going to serve as the coordinating task force is the question. So this is the active task force, which is a station. Coordinating task force. 5 is going to be the nearest task force with a CA, which is a cruiser nearest to the target hex. So that's actually going to be this task force. So this one's going to have to trajectory. It's going to have to perform a trajectory to get to the German task force. So 1, 2, 3, which will actually attach an intel marker to that task force. Okay. We'll attempt to bring to battle after interruption. So then an engage action after interruption, but there's no engaging there. So this task force will move. Actually, intel limit, I believe, is still a thing. So I don't think... Well, they might get there anyway, so... Yeah, so actually... that one is a medium, so 2. Actually, that's in good weather, but... Let's roll for how many segments we remove. Removing 6, but we're going to be hitting the Germans anyway there. So that becomes a station. And then then engage. But we have to vie for the initiative once again. Let's see if the Germans can seize it. Either way, they might actually want to bring the task force to battle here. The Germans actually do not manage to seize the initiative, so that means we're about to have our first battle, I believe is what that means, right? Calculate the trajectory and roll 2d6. Apply common modifiers. So trajectory total is basically just the total trajectory length. So since they're both stations, there's 0. So an engage action, and roll 2d6. Alright. So for the British, they get to engage. A 9 looks like it's going to bring us to battle. So let's move over to common modifiers. I don't think there were any to worry about here. Bad weather, no air supports allowed, no contact marker, no evasive, no coordination. Well, coordination was available. So 10 is actually surprise. A battle is triggered. If the active task force is faster than the target, but I don't think... Looks like we're all even up on speed. So let's move over to the battle board. Alright, so the way a battle is going to work is it's going to be broken into 4 rounds, and I can't find the... Oh, I think it was using a white die for the British third die. So we're going to start off with the gunnery step, which means ships will attack simultaneously. Since the British started the round, they will attack first. So let's take a look at the British ships here. So first up we have the Hood. It's going to take 2 hits to damage, plus 3 from close or point blank range, plus 1 from far or extreme range, which if both ships are at far, will be at extreme range. And the Prince of Wales is a battleship. 2 hits to damage as well, medium speed, plus 4 from point blank or short, plus 2 from far or extreme. So we'll have the hood fire first, +1. And the way this works is we take 3d6 and select the two smallest. So the hood splashes. Let's see what the Prince of Wales does. They're actually 8 is a splash still. So Prince of Wales is +2. Eight is a 10, so they deal 1 hit, which we'll put on the Bismarck. Then we'll have the Prince Eugen fire next, +0, so this is a straight roll. Wow, that's garbage. Snake Eyes is no hits, and then the Bismarck is a +2. Also garbage from the Bismarck. 3 + 2 is 5, so nothing doing there. Then we have the torpedo step. Close torpedo-capable ships in the close zone may attack targets in close or near, except neither one is in the except no ships are torpedo eligible. So we'll just go ahead and move ships in. The Bismarck will close in, as will the Prince of Wales. And the Prince Eugen and the hood will close in. And this will be round 2, which is the last round. So the hood will fire first. This time, since we're both in near, we go to short range, which is just 2d6. So we'll get one of those out. And the hood at this point is +3. Oop. 6 + 3 is 11, so that's another hit, which we'll put on the Bismarck, and the Bismarck's already damaged. That didn't take long. Now we need 4, so now the other side is relevant. So now the Bismarck's damaged and now is slow. +3 from short or point blank, +1 from far or extreme. It's now slow and 4 hits to sink it completely, which is very bad. Then the Prince of Wales will fire. They're at +4. Wow. 11 + 2 is 13, so that's another 2 hits, which they'll put on the Bismarck, because that's what the home fleet would have been focusing on. Then the Bismarck will fire. They're at +3 now. 8, 10 for a hit, which they'll put on the hood. And then the Prince Eugen is a +1. $11, 12 is another hit, which will go on the hood as well. So the hood is also damaged. Let's see how this changes the hood out. +2 from far or from point blank or short range, +0 from far and extreme. 3 hits to sink it, and the hood's now slow. That was the torpedo step. Was that the torpedo step? No, I think that was just the gunnery step still. Then the torpedo attack for the Prince Eugen targeting the hood. We need at least an 11. Which that is not, so nothing happens there. And then that, I believe, maneuver step, that is actually the end of the battle, because this is at far range. So with that, I will move all of this back to the... move everything back to the task force display. And yeah, this is going pretty badly. So with that, let's move back over to the board. The battle's over, so we vie for the initiative. The Germans we're at a +1 to try to just re-seize the initiative. 5 plus 1 is 6, so the Germans will seize the initiative, and we'll do a weather check. Five weather changes to good. Then since we do have the initiative, we do get to roll for the refueling table. So let's see what happens there. Good weather. That's all set. Alright, a 5 is an E. Remove the RV marker. Oh, this is a problem. Alright, so that comes off. I don't know where I'm going to put that. I'll just put that off to the side for here. So that marker is gone, but we have to select the ship and the task force. We might as well just pour gasoline on the fire, and the Prinz Eugen has developed mechanical problems and must return to port. If there are other ships in the task force, at least one must serve as escort. Oh, this is a big problem. The only actions this task force is permitted are trajectory, completion, and pass. The task force may only complete in Wilhelmshaven, Kiel, or Brest. You may not attach an evasive maneuvers marker to this task force, and during debriefing, ignore victory points. You win if the ship returns to Kiel, and win marginally if it returns to Brest or Wilhelmshaven. Spoiler alert, it's not going to do that. British task force is in the hex, so we have to vie for the initiative. Delightful, just what we wanted to see. And the British very much seize the initiative. So weather check for the British. Weather stays good. Now let's check for the action with 0 convoys completed. A 3. Oh boy, this is going to be fun. Trying to intercept again. So let's see what task force is trying to intercept. If it's the task force with a hood in it, we are in deep trouble. Alright, the 6D, nearest task force with a CA, with the cruiser, I believe that is. Yep, with a cruiser and no battleship, battle cruiser, or aircraft carrier. So they might get away with one here, because the nearest task force with a cruiser and no battleship, battle cruiser, or aircraft carrier is actually with a CA. Actually looks like it's the Norfolk that's going to be trying to bring the Germans to battle. So let's do a trajectory, but they are fast. So that could be a big problem for us. And the weather is good. 2, 3, 4. And we need one more segment to get there. 5. Okay, so bring to battle with an engage action. Right, active task force. Okay, so that station comes off. Then they time lapse. Do they time lapse? No, they don't yet. So there's an active task force in the there's the active task force there, targeting the German task force. There's no intel marker attached, which I believe is actually a German intel marker. Alright, so engage, I believe, involves... That doesn't involve the trajectory total, does it? Don't think so. Calculate the trajectory action. Okay, so the trajectory total in this case, because that segment has 5, because the trajectory for the Norfolk has 5 trajectory markers in it, or 5 segments in it targeting a station, the trajectory total here is 5. And that's a 2d6 roll, I believe. Yes, 2d6. All right, so the Norfolk looking at 5. All right, a 10. I believe that's a hit. A skirmish. So that means that we can actually initiate a limited battle. So I believe play 1 round of battle only. So start in the respective far zones. Okay, so I believe that brings them over to... Let's resolve the battle. Air support and coordinating task forces do not participate. Transforms automatically to a station. Okay. Alright, so with that, we need to move back over to the battle board once again. So the Norfolk is another cruiser in the veins of the Prinz Eugen. +1 from far or extreme, +0 from point blank or short. 1 hit to damage, torpedo capable, and fast. So, once again from extreme range, we'll be rolling 3d6 and taking the 2 smallest. Wow. So that's a 10. No. That's a 9, which is still good for a hit, which will go on the Bismarck. So we need 1 more hit to sink it. Then we roll. We're in a very bad situation here. So we'll roll for the Bismarck first, which is a +1 from extreme range. And 5 and 1 is 6, so we don't do anything there. The Prinz Eugen. Takes that away, and nothing happens to the Norfolk. So let's move back over to the board. Might be a little hard to see, but both task forces now have contact markers attached to them. So now at the end of the action, we vie for the initiative. The Germans... Okay, hang on. Need to move those back to the German task force as well. This might be worth spending Lutyens to seize the initiative, because the Germans really need to get away from this. They're very much pincered in here. I think they are going to spend Lutyens to just seize the initiative outright. Because they're in a lot of trouble right now. Where are my German leaders? Here we are. So yes, we are, as I mentioned, we are spending Lutyens to seize the initiative. So yes, the Germans will take the initiative because they need to get away from this situation desperately. Which means we're not going to worry about the vie for the initiative. Let's see what the Germans are doing here with the weather. Weather stays good. So now they're going to trajectory. Start working their way through these refueling. Start working their way through these refueling segments, or these refueling markers. They're going to end up with an intel marker attached to them, but nothing can be helped for that right now. And then because they're damaged, that contact marker will go away. Let's see, with the slow ship, which the Bismarck is the slowest in the task force right now, we'll have to invoke intel limit, but we can only remove that intel marker, or that segment that had the intel marker attached to it. I'll say it in English one of these days. So that gives the British the initiative. Let's see what the weather does for them. Weather stays good, and checking for the action. I feel like all they have to do at this point is just run the Bismarck down. A 2 is an airstrike. Remove damaged British ships. So the hood's been damaged. We remove that segment, or remove that. But there's good with an aircraft carrier, but I don't think we have. That should be up here, I believe. I don't think we have a task force with an aircraft carrier. And oh, yes, we do actually. We do have the one with the. Hold on, that should be a red station. That shouldn't be one with the Ark Royal. Maybe it should be actually. Yeah, I think that one's up there actually, which means I might have battled with the wrong task force. But anywho, so we do have the Ark Royal up there. Perform an airstrike. Let me just double check how airstrike works, but I have a feeling we're very close to ending the scenario. So we'll launch from there. Target task force is going to be so the target force is going to be the. We have to target a hex, I believe, or do we target the. A trajectory may be targeted, so I'm going to target the. Let's target the marker. Let's target the one with the fueling marker. Coordinating and support. We'll designate the. We'll designate the task force with the Prince of Wales as coordinating, and I don't think we need support really on this one. So now we calculate trajectory total, which is 2. And then we roll 2d6. So airstrike, we're looking at 2. Any common modifiers I need to worry about? Air support. Active player is targeting 1 away, so +1. Okay. This is a +1. 2. 6, 7 is a contact marker, and if there's a slow ship in there, I believe it gets hit. Yeah, so the target speed is slow or very slow. One ship is hit. Oh, that's bad. Because we either sink the Bismarck or the Prince Eugen gets hit, and I think the Prince Eugen will get hit. So now that changes to a no modifiers on any attack. Both ships are slow. 2 hits to sink it. So we're in very deep trouble on that one. So the target task force doesn't perform time lapse, and now we vie for the initiative. All right, so we'll grab 1 each of those of the dice. Remember, high roll gets the initiative. We are hoping that we take it back here. We need to badly. And we do. That's fortunate, but we're still in a whole lot of trouble here. Anyway, all these markers can come off. See what happens with the weather. Stays good. And all we can do is pass here because we'll end up in a hex with a refueling marker. But yeah, we are in a whole lot of trouble here. Then the British get the initiative back. They'll roll for the weather. Stays good. Rolling for their action next. A 2 is an airstrike, so we're just going to be running all that back. Launching from here. Targeting the Germans to the shock of, well, no one. Coordinating task force will be the Prince of Wales fleet, or the Prince of Wales task force. And trajectory total here is 0. So let's see what happens here. Snake Eyes, which is, I believe, actually a miss to the fortune of the Germans, to our fortune actually. So after that, we will then vie for the initiative, and once again we need to take it back because we need to get some refueling. We don't take it back. I believe in ties of trying to seize the initiative stays with the active player. Let me just look at that. Yep, tied active player keeps the initiative. So we'll go up to a +1. Weather's still good, but we'll roll again on the British action table. Five is a C action, a completion action. We don't have that. So select the British task force, the convoy, which we've got a couple, but we've got 2 short segments. So select the task force as a convoy. It attempts to complete. Okay, the British pass instead. So this task force will perform another time lapse, which I believe is, yep, very slow is 2 trajectory segments. Okay, so we'll get the initiative back. Roll for the weather first. We're still at +1 when we need to seize, or when we need to try to seize or vie for the initiative. First rolling for the weather. Weather stays good, which means we get to roll on the fueling table. A 2 is a B, which removes the rendezvous marker. Okay. And now the 2 battle cruisers may enter, and Brest may enter play. You may perform a reorganized action to attempt to bring them into a new task force in Brest. But if we do, there's a VT penalty for doing that. The Luftwaffe's increased assets in France has protected the Atlantic ports effectively, and repairs on the ships are complete ahead of schedule. Are we 3 hexes from a British airbase? We are. Looks like there's one in Canada. So we attach a contact marker to the task force, to the German task force. Let me find a British. This will do. Then we vie for the initiative again. We need to keep this keep the initiative badly here. And we managed to keep the initiative, which means we'll make another trajectory here to the last fueling station. I think at this point we are on the total Gitfo plan. So now we're slow. We remove 2 segments, which means we'll end up being a station with that rendezvous marker. Initiative goes back to the British, and we roll for the convoy, or we roll for the weather. Move all of this out of the way. Although I don't want to go too far with it because I have a feeling we'll need it before long. Weather stays good. Rolling on the action table. Right, a 1 is an airstrike, which, good thing I didn't want to go too far with that. So, launching from the Ark Royal Task Force striking the Germans and coordinating with the Norfolk. So our modifiers here are... So our trajectory total is actually 0 in this case because we have no segments. Okay, air support is... So +1. Contact marker is so we have +3 on that. +2 on the... We designated a coordinating task force, so we are looking at modifiers of +6. This could be very bad. Boxcars turns into a 15, and I believe that is contact marker and damage. So a ship in the task force is damaged. Active player selects the ship. If it's damaged, it's sunk. Okay, so we'll sink the Prinz Eugen. This is going very badly for us right now. All right, so I believe after an airstrike, yep, we vie for the initiative again. We need to hold the initiative here. Which we do not, because even with a +1, that still turns into a tie. So that's a +2, which means we'll roll again. This is on the action table that we're rolling. 1 is another airstrike, so it's a good thing that none of that's gone anywhere. Not changing anything, we're still on a roll of a +6. Does the scenario just end if the Bismarck gets sunk? Okay, so yeah, when 3 or fewer rendezvous markers remain and the Germans have no task force in play. We're at a +6. And the Bismarck's in the drink. So the Bismarck has very much been sunk. That is a huge problem. So when the Germans have no task forces in play, would that come in as a new task force, or... Let me look. You may not bring them into play unless fueling table result B is garnered. So looks like there are no task forces. Looks like there are no German task forces left in play, and the Bismarck's been sunk. So I'm going to rule that the scenario is just over on the spot. So let's go ahead and wrap the scenario up. Here's our after-action report for this scenario. Glub, 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 glub. I know that's my horrible impression of drowning. What it lacks in quality, I think it makes up for in accuracy, in my opinion. But the victory points, we're not even going to pretend that there were any victory points. This was a total catastrophe. The Fuhrer is shocked. He informs Raeder that the Tirpitz will remain in the Baltic. Probably right before Raeder's execution for such a horrendous operation, but that will do it for this playthrough of Atlantic Chase. I definitely am going to feel a lot better if I leave this as Sunday content. I think the only reason this scenario felt like it worked tonight was because it was so short. But, like I said, my sneaking suspicion here is that Atlantic Chase will probably remain Sunday content on the channel. But, speaking of Sunday, we're going to play Terra Mystica this coming Sunday. And next week we're going to commemorate the sinking of Battleship Bismarck with the seventh game on my TACUP Wargaming list, Bismarck Solitaire. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.